They told you Social Security was a lockbox. They told you every dollar you paid in was being held safely, set aside, protected, waiting for you when you retired. They lied. And today I'm going to show you the documented proof. Not opinions, not conspiracy theories, not political talking points. Official government records, congressional testimony, numbers straight from the United States Treasury. Because what Congress did to the Social Security Trust Fund is one of the biggest financial betrayals in American history, and most of the people it hurt have no idea it even happened. If you have ever paid into Social Security, if you are currently collecting Social Security, if you are counting on Social Security to be there for you, this video is the most important thing you will watch this year. Stay with me all the way through because near the end I am going to tell you exactly what you can do right now to protect yourself and maximize every dollar you are still owed. Let's start at the beginning. Social Security was created in 1935 under President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The idea was simple and it was powerful. Workers would contribute a portion of every paycheck into a dedicated trust fund. That fund would grow. And when those workers retired, became disabled, or passed away, the money would be there to support them and their families. It was not a government handout. It was not welfare. It was a contract. You work, you contribute, and in return the government promises to be there when you need it. For the first few decades, the system worked mostly as intended. The trust fund collected more than it paid out. A surplus built up. And Americans went to work every day trusting that their contributions were being protected. Then Congress got their hands on it. Here is where the story changes. And here is where the documented proof begins. In 1968, President Lyndon B. Johnson needed money. The Vietnam War was expensive. His Great Society social programs were expensive. And the federal budget was running a deficit. So Johnson and Congress made a decision that would affect every single American worker for generations to come. They moved Social Security from a separate off-budget account into the unified federal budget. What does that mean in plain English? It means that the Social Security surplus, the money you and your parents and your grandparents paid in, was now sitting in the same pot as every other government dollar. And Congress could see it. And Congress could use it. This was not hidden. This was not a secret backroom deal. This is documented in the Congressional record. It is part of the official history of the United States budget. And it opened the door to everything that came next. Now let's talk about the IOUs. Here is how the system works today, and how it has worked since the 1980s. When Social Security collects more in payroll taxes than it pays out in benefits, the surplus does not sit in a vault somewhere. It does not get invested in stocks or real estate or anything that grows. Instead, the Social Security Administration is required by law to hand that surplus over to the United States Treasury. In exchange, the Treasury gives Social Security special government bonds, essentially IOUs. Pieces of paper that say the government promises to pay this money back later. This is not a theory. This is not an accusation. This is how the system is legally structured. You can read it on the SSA's own website. You can find it in the Social Security Trustees Report published every single year. The Social Security Trust Fund today holds approximately $2.8 trillion in these Treasury bonds. $2.8 trillion that was paid in by American workers and spent by the federal government on other things. Wars, tax cuts, government salaries, congressional salaries, foreign aid, budget deficits. All of it funded in part by money that workers paid in, believing it was being saved for their retirement. Now here's the moment that made millions of Americans furious, even though most of them never knew it happened. In 1983, Social Security was facing a crisis. Benefits were about to exceed revenues. The trust fund was at risk of running dry. President Ronald Reagan appointed a commission headed by Alan Greenspan to fix the problem. The Greenspan Commission solution had two main parts. First, they raised the payroll tax. Working Americans and their employers would now pay more into Social Security. Second, they gradually raised the full retirement age from 65 to 67. The stated reason for the tax increase was to build up a large surplus in the trust fund, a cushion that would carry Social Security through the retirement of the baby boom generation, the largest demographic wave in American history. Americans accepted this. They paid the higher taxes. They trusted the system. Between 1983 and 2010, Social Security collected approximately $2.7 trillion more than it paid out in benefits, a massive surplus, built on the backs of working Americans who were told their sacrifice would be protected, and Congress spent it. Every single dollar of that surplus went into the general fund. Every dollar was replaced with Treasury bonds, IOUs, and the money was used to fund the federal government, mask the true size of the federal deficit, and pay for programs that had nothing to do with retirement security. Senator Ernest Hollings of South Carolina stood up on the floor of the United States Senate and called it out directly. He said, and I am paraphrasing here, that Congress has been raiding the Social Security Trust Fund and spending the money, and then telling the public the budget deficit is smaller than it really is. He called it a Ponzi scheme. A sitting United States Senator, on the record. He was not alone. Over the years, members of both parties have acknowledged what happened. It is not disputed. It is documented history. So let's talk about what this means for you right now. The Social Security Trust Fund currently holds about $2.8 trillion in Treasury bonds. On paper, that sounds like a lot. But here is the reality. The baby boom generation, 76 million Americans born between 1946 and 1964, is retiring right now. Every single day, approximately 10,000 baby boomers reach retirement age. The system is paying out more than it takes in, and to cover that gap, the Treasury has to start redeeming those bonds. But here's the problem. When the Treasury redeems those bonds, it has to come up with real cash. And the only ways the federal government gets real cash are to raise taxes, cut spending, or borrow more money. In other words, the IOUs are coming due, and the bill is being passed to current taxpayers and future generations. The Social Security trustees have projected that at the current rate, the trust fund reserves will be depleted by around 2033 or 2034. At that point, if nothing changes, Social Security would only be able to pay out about 77 to 80 cents for every dollar of promised benefits, a roughly 20% cut, automatically, for every retiree in America. This is not a scare tactic. This is the official projection from the Social Security trustees themselves, published in their annual report. And it is a direct consequence of decades of Congress treating the Social Security Trust Fund as a piggy bank. Now, I want to address something directly because I know some of you are thinking it. Is this a Republican problem? Is this a Democrat problem? The honest answer is both. This has been going on for over 50 years across administrations and Congresses controlled by both parties. Johnson was a Democrat. Reagan was a Republican. The practice of running unified budgets that obscure Social Security borrowing continued through Bush, Clinton, Bush again, Obama, Trump, and Biden. This is not about party. This is about a systemic failure that both parties participated in and neither party has fully fixed. The people who paid the price are the workers, the retirees, the disabled Americans, the widows and widowers, the people who did everything right, worked hard, paid their taxes, trusted the system, and are now facing the consequences of decisions made in Washington without their knowledge or consent. So what can you do about it? I want to be honest with you here because you deserve honesty. You cannot personally force Congress to restore the trust fund. You cannot single-handedly fix a problem that took 50 years to create. But here is what you can do, and these things matter. First, vote. I know that sounds simple, but Social Security is one of the most politically powerful issues in America, precisely because seniors vote at higher rates than any other age group. Politicians who threaten Social Security benefits pay a price at the ballot box. Your vote is your most powerful tool. Second, know your rights and maximize your benefits right now. Do not wait to see what Congress does. Claim the maximum benefit you are entitled to. Check your earnings record for errors at ssa.gov. Understand your options around when to claim, how to coordinate with your spouse, and how to protect survivor benefits. We cover all of these strategies on this channel every single week. Third, contact your representatives. Call your senator's office. Call your congressional representative's office. Tell them you know what happened to the trust fund. Tell them you expect them to protect and restore Social Security benefits. These calls get logged, they get counted, they matter. Fourth, share this video. The more seniors who understand what actually happened, with documented facts, not rumors, the louder and more unified the voice becomes. An informed electorate is the only real check on congressional power. Let me leave you with this. You did not fail the system. The system failed you. You worked. You contributed. You kept your end of the bargain for 30, 40, 50 years. You were not asking for charity. You were asking for what you were promised. What Congress did to the Social Security Trust Fund was not illegal under the rules they wrote for themselves. But legal and right are not always the same thing. And the people who made those decisions, who spent your retirement contributions on other priorities and left behind IOUs, should be held accountable by every voter who is watching this video. The documented proof is out there. The congressional record, the trustees' reports, the testimony of senators who stood up and called it what it was. Now you know. And knowing is where accountability begins. If this video opened your eyes, please share it with every senior you know. Post it, text it, email it. The more people who understand the real history of Social Security, the harder it becomes for Washington to ignore. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss a video, because every week we bring you the information the government hopes you never find out about. And we give it to you straight, with sources and with respect for everything you have worked for. I will see you in the next one. Take care of yourself, and don't stop fighting for what is yours.